First, thanks for attending. This is our first time at Activate, and it's been really interesting, and it's a privilege to present in front of other folks like us that use Fusion and Lucidworks products. My name is Marc Desormeau. I'm with Lenovo, and I own from the business side, I own the search product. So Lenovo has search. Has three different versions of search. We've got three installations, let's say. We have an internal search, we have a e-commerce and Lenovo.com search, and we have a support site search. So those three teams work independently and use two different products. So we use Lucidworks for support as well as for the public Lenovo.com site, and then we use the different product for internal search. My responsibility is specifically from Lenovo.com, search engine. And on my team, we have Harish. I'll let Harish introduce himself.
Hi, this is Harish. I manage a team of people supporting e-com search, basically the public search on commerce for both content as well as for products.
Okay, so let me go ahead and get started. This is going to be a little bit less of the heady machine learning, AI, great whiz-bang technology. I came into this more after the decision was made to replace our search engine and move to Fusion. And frankly, I was new to the idea of managing a search engine. So I inherited the team. Thankfully, Harish and team were very capable and got me knowledgeable quickly. But one of the big challenges I faced was as we developed a search practice, I really had no frame of reference within Lenovo to build from. So we were really in sort of a reacting mode. So this is hopefully going to help anybody who's getting started on the journey. We have a long way to go in our adoption curve. I think we've made some really significant strides. And if you look at some of the results, that really helped us get the credibility within our executive stakeholders, and we're able to leverage that to really give us a bit of room to breathe and start planning a little bit better. But having said that, it's been great to be able to network with people like you. And so hopefully this talk will maybe give you a nugget or two that you can bring back to your business and help you in developing that search practice and that get the space and the sponsorship. So as I said, my name is Marc Desormeau. I work for Lenovo, who is based and headquartered in North Carolina. Harish and team based out of Bangalore, so it's a distributed team. What we'll cover today is a little bit about Lenovo. Not everybody knows. Apparently, this is the first ThinkPad non-Mac product that's been plugged in. Shame on all of you, but it will work reliably. Of course, I didn't plug it in, so who knows? Maybe we'll see how long the battery lasts. So I'll tell you a little bit about Lenovo, a little bit about what search, our mandate is for search, the journey from this idea that, hey, fast is going out of support, we have got to switch and find something, and then we'll take you through some of the landscape challenges and hopefully some lessons learned that you can all bring to bear on your business. So Lenovo, we have roughly $50 billion in revenue. We're the number one PC manufacturer in the world, have been consistently for many quarters. We are the number one provider. This is little known and sort of germane to the story. We're the number one provider of supercomputers. So 1 in 3 supercomputers runs Lenovo. We have initially we started out, in this little shack. Actually, wasn't me, it was the founders. Just a handful of people started in this shack in China, and really their goal was, how do I bring the PCs to the public, to the masses in China? And so they were actively, a group of engineers actively developing a board that could translate the technology into something useful for China. That's since grown. I mean, their initial investment, if you just look at it in sort of just dollars, was $20,000. That's how they started this company. They're now $51 billion company. We have 57,000 employees around the world. They grew from that little building all the way up to buying the IBM PC division and then the X series division after that. So it's certainly a pretty big Cinderella story. We have 36 manufacturing facilities around the world. We do business in 180 countries. So we're a large multinational, and with it, we have a lot of the same problems. Very matrix teams. We have shifting priorities. We have a strategy that is pretty complex. But it's ultimately a very dynamic environment. The culture within Lenovo is very much about personal ownership and about self-determination. So if you're willing to take the risks and put the work and do the work and put the time in, you can really make some changes. So that's very exciting. Our global headquarters, we have two. We have the Western headquarters in North Carolina, and then we have the China headquarters in Beijing. So what we do from a PC perspective, from a search perspective. So our search mandate is to support 36 countries, 36 languages, 88 countries. We support B2C, SMB, B2B. We have indirect, direct support. We have private sites. We have to do transactional use cases on the site. So for anybody who might at least know what a PC is and what a ThinkPad is, the little red dot, people look for that all the time. They have to be able to find that. And then at the same time, that enterprise manager needs to then go find information about data center and certifications. And it's quite a broad use case. And so it's challenging, to say the least, being able to support all of those. If we look at what launching Fusion did for us, it was Harish will talk a little bit more about the journey and the RFP process and how that worked. But we launched Fusion. There was two things that happened when we launched Fusion. The first thing was we had this historical search engine. It was a very small team running it. It was SLI in North America and fast for the rest of the world. It was there. But it was just one of many things that happened on the site. And so I wouldn't say there was a tremendous amount of focus. But we launched Lucidworks in 2017. It was partial year, 2017. And immediately there was two things. One, the search engine works way better than what we had. So that right out of the box gave us credibility. So people could see the results and could see the impact. And so the revenue shot up dramatically. 2018 was the very first year we had Fusion installed for the full fiscal year for us. And again, tremendous results. So our revenue nearly doubled. And then since launching Signals, we're seeing an increase in revenue again. So if we look at the weekly revenue contribution, because we've just launched Signals, we've increased that revenue again. Weekly contributions 41%. So we've had some dramatic improvements. We had to look at this from many perspectives, not just revenue, because we're multiple use cases. So if you look at conversion rate as well, conversion rate went up 24% year over year, and then since launching Signals, increased again another 33%. And then lastly, click-through rate, because again, not everybody is interested in the revenue. When we look at our enterprise customers and our enterprise stakeholders, they're really looking at, are people getting to the information I'm trying to share with them? So click-through rate was very important as well. So we've increased click-through rate by 55% since launching Signals. So these are all important in that, search is a black box for most people. They look at search and they say, I typed something in and I didn't find what I wanted. And the truth is, that's possible. Maybe it wasn't the perfect result for you, but if you're able to turn it around and say, well, look at what most of our customers can do, then all of a sudden they can say, okay, well, maybe my particular instance or use case was not good, but I can see that overall there's value in this, and I will trust that you will get to where you need to be. So these were dramatic improvements that we were able to demonstrate to the business, and that was able to give us some room to breathe and to start thinking more broadly. And we'll get into why that was important later. So let's talk a little bit about the search journey. And for that, I'll pass it over to Harish. He was instrumental in developing the RFP and taking everyone through that.
So basically, I think most of in the industry would know this process for changing the system. And we also went through the same process, so I'll quickly go through the slides because most of them would know, but just for the benefit of few who may still would want to know what this process is all about. So basically, if you see, Lenovo is a very diverse business. Like there are different countries, with different natures. Like some countries are sensitive to one aspect of search against another country, which is sensitive to something else. So we had to make sure that we had all information, or at least enough information gathered from stakeholders to make sure we are looking at the right search engine when we are trying to switch for one. So how do we make sure that we have enough information? So it was a long process to talk to various stakeholders from various business. So different business like B2C, B2B, SMB, and then like there are business which are direct, indirect, and there are different geos like who are like operate quite differently because of cultural reasons. So it was kind of a very extensive process to gather and come up with a list which would help us create at least a minimum number of features which are in agreement for all geos. So that was a very first key step which we did. And then how do we start looking for a good, reliable search engine? So our starting point was, of course, Gartner and Forrester. That's where we started, and started talking to the vendors, providing them with the RFI we had created, going through all the process internally. And that's where we kind of ended up with getting all the information from the vendors who can come close to the requirements we had listed for ourselves. Once we had all of them, we've kind of shortlisted and started a process of proof of concept. So this was kind of a very essential step which we did before we took a decision, because that's where it proved like we were actually we were on Fast earlier, which was, I don't know how many people, most of them I guess would be knowing about it. Was a great search engine. Like it could do anything for you. Fast was really fantastic. So trying to replace that was kind of challenge. Like so many languages, so many rules we had for business. And like if you take just US, we have around 2,500 stores which behave differently. So we had to prepare ourselves for replacing the existing search engine with something new which could do all that. So that was kind of challenge we were looking at. And there were a lot of search engines came close at a certain price point and features and open architecture. So Lucidworks was one which was kind of came pretty close, and we went ahead with that. So basically that was the process which I followed for identifying whom we would going forward with. So and we are really glad we did that. Especially looking at the pipeline capabilities which are available with Fusion, both on indexing side as well as query side, that really helps. So I don't know, if you're already on Fusion, or if you're planning to, or if you're looking for, maybe that's something you should explore. Very powerful capability in Fusion. This is like a quick slide on what we have laid out for ourselves. So basically we have multiple environments, one dev, which is kind of a small cluster, followed by a QA and prod. So they are big clusters which can take all the traffic from different businesses. If you notice, we have sorry, yours a touch screen, right? So we had planned for analytics cluster which is outside the main search engine, because there is so much of user behavioral data which gets generated on Lenovo side, which we didn't want it to process on the search clusters itself, because that would impact the performance, as there is a continuous feed of data and we would be processing it. especially as we keep growing, it will be more and more data. So we had kept that analytics layer outside where all user behavioral data is aggregated, and then that is pushed into the system. We have just started. We are doing it at a fairly large intervals right now, but plan is to come close to real time as quickly as possible, so that we are trying to optimize as and when user is trying to do something on our side. So basically, this is at a high level architecture we are using to present our things. So.
So thanks, Harish. So this is where, in a typical process, you're looking at 18 months, right? So you're an RFP, it's like a big deal, a lot of money, a lot of people involved, the architects, et cetera. So from start to finish, it was roughly 18 months. And unfortunately, by the time we started and by the time we finished, the landscape changed completely. So we started out with this mandate of there's a certain amount of revenue being contributed by search within the PC focus was what it was. That was sort of the number one goal is you cannot disrupt that revenue. So our executive stakeholders were very concerned about that. And so that was the commitment, that was the plan. We knew we needed to future-proof our search engine. Fusion fell into that nicely. But at the end of the day, by the time I hadn't actually taken over the job yet, it was our fiscal year starts in April. And so it was I think late March, and I was already getting these emails from this executive vice president saying, I search on data center and you're giving me a bunch of PC accessories. What is wrong with this? And so very quickly, of course, my executives all the way down, right? How everything rolls downhill. I was getting emails. I hadn't even actually taken over the team yet. I hadn't done any of this stuff. And I'm just getting this hate mail every day by a notoriously aggressive and vocal senior executive. So that was my introduction into search and into dealing with someone like that. So the mandate shifted. So immediately when I hit the ground, the mandate grew. So it was no longer just PCs. It was you have to help me with my analysts who want to understand how the DCG team is, what their strategy is, and I've got to support all these new products that are barely in the commerce engine because you don't really buy a $20,000 server. You buy 100 of them and then you negotiate a better price. You're not paying retail for this. So the model started shifting from I need to recruit some really smart people and they do a search on job and you recommend a ThinkPad. I've got someone who's trying to find certifications about a product and I can't find it at all. So these were the kinds of conversations I was having with this executive. And of course, I'm just trying to get my arms around, well, what is this thing and what can I do with it? So right away, we're sort of on our heels. We've now introduced a more complex infrastructure. So there's just more to it than there was before. And so there's a ramp, there's a learning curve on the part of the IT team and on part of even the business team on how all this stuff works. The team size didn't change. It's not like they said your mandate is now 10x what it used to be and here's more resources. It was your mandate's 10x and those are the same resources you have. So how do we deal with that? And then lastly, which I thought was interesting, is the sponsors of this project came in and they said, hey, we just spent a boatload of money. Why is search not doing what we need it to do? Right? And again, it goes back to this black box notion where you just assume that if you enter something, it should work. And the reality is, search is dependent on so many other things upstream. At its core, organic search just shows all the problems you've got with your content and your data, really. It helps customers find that a lot more easily. So that's the circumstances. So what we had to do was very quickly pivot and say, okay, we don't have time to do a lot of research and understand how we can support all these use cases. We've got to come up with something that will, probably not satisfy everybody, so no one will be really happy, but ultimately will be able to give us a little bit of room to be okay for most people. And so we redesigned the site quickly so we could present some content results, we could present product results, and of course, what happened there is now all of my transactional people started coming after me saying, why are you showing me all this content garbage? I'm trying to sell a PC here, right? So that, got another bunch of problems. So instead of just the one EVP, now I had some other VPs coming at me saying, you're costing me my business, right? But thankfully, what I was able to do is turn it around and say, well, look, yes, we understand this is not an ideal experience for everybody. And yes, we know we need to get to a more predictive type of response and be able to judge search intent. But hey, look, let me show you some of the results we're getting with search. We're already contributing way more revenue than you had before with search. Our customers are able to find things more easily, and you can see that through revenue. And then on the flip side, when I have my conversations with this executive concerned more about content and information finding, I was able to turn around and say, well, look, our click-through rates have tremendously improved since we've launched Fusion. And so I understand it's not great. I understand your wife still has problems finding a ThinkPad or finding the widget or whatever it is, but our customers mostly are finding what they need to find. And so really what was important to that for us is we were able to sort of get off of the defensive, constantly trying to answer to the poor experience and be able to say, look, we're working on it. We understand it. We hear you. We need time to do research and understand what the right solution is. But in the meantime, know that we're giving your customers a better experience. So that was why that was really critical. So next, the environmental complexity. Let Harish talk a little bit about how we dealt with that.
So basically, as we moved over to the new system, of course, there were challenges within for data as any new environment is. So stabilization of the system, stabilization of the endpoints where we could get into the system and index all the data which is needed both for products as well as for content. But with time, with proper partnership with the IT, we could get that thing done. And next big thing which came in our direction was upgrading from 3x version to 4x. So that also helped us a lot in stabilizing the system and gave us more options feature-wise, which we started using. Then came the very big thing which we were kind of waiting on so that for systems to stabilize and start doing this signal implementation. I think that was a big turning point for us. So this is where we were kind of waiting to implement it, and we have really seen tremendous improvement in click-through conversion and all. And the point where the content and product conflicts were there, so we could fix both the sides in one go with the signals. So let's say someone is searching for a term where basically if you see the kind of business we have end-to-end, we start with PCs and all, and at the other end we have data center group, which is kind of selling multi-million-dollar servers and all. So if user is searching for, it's very difficult, especially for common terms, what user is looking for. It becomes very difficult to get things on right side. But if you see, for the people who are looking for information more on research side than on finding side, so mostly if you see the transactional, the PC related ones are more transactional. We could give it because we had divided them into two sections on the page, and we could we could get information for both for content as well as for products with signals. For a given term, even though it is sharing, for example, cloud, it could mean something in a data center scope versus something which is meant for a PC search. So cloud could be something which is related to PC. So transactional side, which is on the right side, which is bringing products, that brought relevant information. And on the left side, if you see our layout, I don't know, it's not there. So on the left side, I'm sorry. Okay. So we have basically on the left side, we have contents. On the right side, we have products. So both were kind of bringing in very relevant information. So signals was kind of very positive move for us. Then we had to stabilize on the support front as such. We moved from fast to Fusion, and Fusion came in with a lot of features. We knew it had a lot more capabilities than fast, but I think we couldn't quantify, and we were not prepared for leveraging all the features. So, and also it came in with additional responsibilities for us when compared to fast. So that's also, even in that area, we were kind of falling short. So the quick thing which we had to do was resource ourselves better for both supporting system as well as for enhancing the system. So this was one of the key things like we had realized and thought we will share with all of you. So in the journey, like where we were kind of falling short of resources, Lucidworks and peers, they really came in for our help. Like it was not easy to quickly fill in the resource and train them to extent where they could contribute. So it was like partnering with Lucidworks helped us with getting the talent needed to get things going, and also peers. Interaction with peers helped us a lot in understanding like how things could be done better, given the same kind of business they're also into. So I think that also would be an interesting point maybe you could explore in case if you're going in that direction. Training, yes, very important, because on top of it, it could look simple and big system, but you really need to get in and understand the capabilities and how you can implement it. That really helps in taking using full power of the system. One last thing is like roles and responsibilities need to be clearly identified because of the nature of the system. Now it becomes more because of all the features it provides. It also expects us to have that in-depth knowledge in every direction, like the way you can index data, the way you can query for information, the way you can use signals. Everything is kind of deep and it needs its own area of specialization. So it would be a good idea to have team clearly identified what the roles and responsibilities are. That way they can focus and grow in that area and really can contribute. So one last point before I hand over to Mark is stakeholders. So system like three parts: the data which is coming in, the fusion itself, and then there is something on the right side like where the stakeholders can also optimize the experience. So Fusion provides a good tool for creating or enabling rules, especially for us like in commerce. It really helps. So there are multi levels of ranking which happens, like basic ranking. On top of it, we had our own boost stage included. Then we have the signals, and on top of it, this rules engine is working. So the merchandisers who would want to push a particular product or want to stop some product from coming onto the search results page, they still have the option. So any response flows through all, and at the end, the stakeholders still have a say what they want to show or what they want to hide. So that way, it's very commerce friendly and helps with the business.
Okay, so taking us through the last little bit of this, all of this was, and I think the real win for us was, and the strategy forward was, we had to take control of the narrative ultimately. So we introduced a new application, the mission changed. We had a number of issues that we had to go solve. But before we could really do any of that, we had to sort of change that discussion so away from search as a problem and really start developing partnerships and socialize the future and possibility of search. So the very first thing we did is we reached out, we built a network of stakeholder team members. So we extended our team. It was small. We had to reach into all the different countries, really start getting them to become advocates and stakeholders in the success of search. So we were able to get partnerships and then really start building this virtual team. So every time one of their executives in Germany would complain about search, he knew that there was someone locally on his team that actually had a hand in it and could sit down and explain to him, both in terms of the successes and what we were doing to fill it. So we extended our reach and we really started socializing a little bit more the value and the power of search. The next thing we did is we were constrained like any other large organization. There was a number of projects going underway. We were right in the middle of this whole digital transformation, which was really what prompted this whole new mission. And what ended up happening is we were just one of many projects. And so they kept telling us, why are you not moving fast enough? We were able to say, well, look, you are prioritizing this whole set of projects. This is where we fall within your priority. If you want us to move faster, then you guys can start prioritizing us faster. So that really took the discussion off the table, and they understood that we were within a whole series of priorities, and therefore we were able to, again, stop being defensive about not moving fast enough, but really be able to explain to them, look, this is the context of the limited span that we have, and this is where we fall within it. The next thing we were able to do is with Lucidworks tools is be able to start turning over the keys to the kingdom to some extent with some guidelines. We found out that we really did need guidelines. We were able to actually start giving them some of the tools. So in the past, it used to be a lot of, I need this to happen on search, open a ticket, contact a team, and then it takes a little bit of time to happen because, again, we're chronically dealing with all these tickets. We're able to turn over some of the tooling to them. Some training, followed, and then we realized, okay, let's start making sure we educate people on how to do this because they were starting to do some crazy stuff. But ultimately, they started actually being engaged in their own success. So these merchandisers have certain goals. They can start pushing products higher. They can start creating rules that are very unique for their countries and their geographies. So really having them have some more skin in the game. And then lastly, this was probably the best part, is we created some self-help dashboards or self-service dashboards. So anytime an executive would complain and say, why is this not working? We could say, well, let's take you to your dashboard and let's take a look at how we're doing. And so they were able to start looking at metrics that were meaningful for them. And so we created more relevancy-based dashboards for some executives on the data center side and some more transactional dashboards for the people that were on the PC side. All of that allowed them to start not only looking at the successes, but then they started getting engaged in, well, let me see which terms are coming up with 0 results. Why are these products that I'm just launching not appearing in the search? And so that also helped us because we just couldn't possibly manage all of these sites and all of these products. And we started realizing there were some capabilities that we needed to go address so that we would start being more successful. So all of these tools and these strategies helped us, again, get off the defensive, control the narrative a bit more, and really start having them understand a little bit more the complexity behind the scene and what they had to do with it. So that was our journey. Hopefully this has been a little bit helpful for everyone here, and you can take something away from it. But just to recap, we started out with thankfully selecting a search engine that really is, if you've read the latest Forrester Wave study, is really one of the top insight engines. And that's really where we're starting to change the narrative now to help people understand that search is more than just this little box. You type something and you find something, but it's a tremendous source of insights about your customers. I mean, there's nothing else on the website where a customer says, this is what I want to do. Right? They enter, they're typing in, exactly what they're trying to do. The question is, how can you then, aggregate all that information and start using it? So we're starting to partner with our search engine marketing folks and our SEO folks, and we're starting to give them some insights into what our customers are looking for. And they're starting to look at it and say, hey, wait a minute, this is more than just a search engine. This is actually providing some data and some insights. So really look at this and play the long game and try to understand where you need to go and do your best to staff up for it. Certainly that was difficult for us. I'd say the second piece is I came into this not knowing really how other people structured search. And so I, with our Lucidworks team, was able to reach into other companies. So I spoke to folks at SAS, at Lowe's, I spoke to folks at REI, other people who are using Fusion to try to understand what are some of the challenges you faced. How did you solve them? How are you structuring your team? And then I'm starting to realize that some of these people have the same questions I've got. So that was a little bit, it was a little bit encouraging to realize we're not the only ones out there in the wilderness going, geez, we're lost. But you realize actually this is a growing space. So people learning. Take control of the narrative. I can't stress that enough. Search, everyone just assumes search should work, right? And you heard it this morning. Why is it not working like Google? Well, give me 10,000 developers and a lot of money and I'll make it work better, right? I'm sure you guys have all felt that pain, right? And then, the other one, which is, why does search suck? I tried to find X and I didn't find it. right? So that narrative really needs to be changed. And so to do that, I think you need to understand what relevancy means, right? So relevancy is king. Everyone understands that's our goal. But relevancy is relative to who your stakeholders are, right? So is it relevancy to, is relevancy a measured by a revenue? Is it measured by a click-through? Is it measured by a contact form? Is it measured by no exit rates? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. So really understanding what your customers, not big C customers, but internal customers are looking for as well. And then being able to explain to them how you're meeting their needs with search. So that was our journey. It was, I've got to say, a little painful when we first started. I do want to thank our Lucidworks partners because they made it a lot easier. And certainly being able to show quickly better numbers bought us the time we needed to then really get our heads out of the trenches and start looking at this. So thanks.
We have Yogesh here.
Oh,
Maybe
Yogesh.
clap for Yogesh also.
Where's Yogesh? Yeah, there we go. Yes. Yeah, we've leveraged the team. Yeah. We've leveraged the Lucidworks team a lot to straighten things out. So with that, I'll stop. We've got 5 minutes apparently left to answer some questions.
Can you explain how big your search team was? Hi. Could you explain how big your search team, your core search team was, and how you justified growing it to your executives and got funding for that? Because that's often a struggle in these situations.
So our search team, small, so three. So 3 people is where we started. We're now growing. I have to say one of the challenges we have is finding the skills we need and recruiting them. So that's been an ongoing challenge. And I'm working with our HR department to help them understand that the skills we need are a little bit scarcer and more specific. So that's an ongoing challenge. But we've been able to justify the need for more resources largely by helping them understand the value we can derive from search. So clearly the numbers are important, right? So being able to go to our executive stakeholders and say, here's how I'm impacting your business, and then being able to show them the vision, right? So that the idea of signals, the idea of AI and machine learning and developing models, they're starting to understand that. And they also start to understand now that it's not just the same people that need to do this. So getting the partnership, that was important. So having the business actually be part of the team. And that was, I think back to a Harvard Business Review study about 5 years ago I read where P&G was, they figured out that this was a time when big data was important. They had this data team that was very isolated. And what they ended up figuring out was what we need to do is take that data team. They still belong to us. They have the skills and knowledge and the support of their peers, but we're going to embed them in the business. And by doing that, they all of a sudden became part of the business. And we're social creatures. So they would have a beer with Bob, and then all of a sudden they're like buddies and they start talking, right? And so that's part of what we were trying to do with this engagement is not just being us and them, but we now have weekly calls with our merchandisers, and we help them understand what they're doing well and successes, what their challenges are, what their campaign plans are. And so, to the point of, it took us a little while to figure this out. We kept getting these issues of this is not showing up on the site. And we realized it's because there's no price. And that was one of the sort of the filters that we had is if it doesn't have a price because it's not announced yet, we just knock it out because we have a lot of products, right? So a big part of it was getting them to advocate for us. And then they started understanding, oh, this is actually a bit more complex. We need more resources.
Thank you.
So you said that you had to support 36 languages. Was there anything within Lucidworks that helped with those translations? Or
I'm going to hand that one over to...
Translations are like tokenizers, you're saying?
So for the 36 languages you support, is there anything within Lucidworks that really helped leverage doing any kind of translations? Or anything?
The good thing about the Fusion is you can have any number of collections, by language. Okay, so if you see, we have collections by language, by business, and by different segments. We have countries where we don't sell products online, but products are available online, right? And then there are countries where there are products online, and they have to be, indexed at a higher rate, has to be addressed more. So there are different ways of indexing going through these different collections, which can be attached with different pipelines, where it's not only language, but business-wise, if you want to do something different, you can still do it.
Thank you.
I think that's time. Maybe have 30 seconds if anybody has a last question.
Yeah, we have probably time for just one last
Okay.
last one, as long as it's not too involved. But yeah, we have time for one.
So I'm gonna sneak two into one then. So I have one is like just continuing to the question that was around staffing is when you said three, is it like three for your global support or three for the US website and
Global.
the other for the global? Wow, impressive. And the next question is that did you have like one instance, one implementation of Lucidworks for like the China or other countries that you are or the other channels that you're supporting through this search, or was it? Regional implementation.
Yeah. So as of now we have one.
Thank you.
Okay, but if you see the screen we had, it had like layers in the background. So that's the plan. So we are going to add. So we had the plan of having multiple, but due to reasons I cannot really get into, we had to start with one. It's not financial, but it's more of technical, like how we had to route for reasons I cannot really get into. So we had to start with one. But plan is yes, because maybe I can tell you one more thing. We want to spread because we want to avoid any caching, because that's kind of impacting on performance, currentness, any statistics which we collect when user is doing. If it is hitting a caching layer like CDN, we are not getting any information which is happening on the user side.
And probably the limitations with the rules that the country sites may be different, right? The boosting rules and all.
Yeah.
It's going to be different by country.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to model it all under.
Fusion does that.
Fusion does that. Yeah. So you can have still one instance.
Yeah,
And multiple country sites.
Exactly.
And control the rules.
we have stores in thousands.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone.